Let's jump into some of the products that you're actually distributing. I mean, Hexagon is obviously that's one of the big players in the industry. Can you just sort of map out, and then we'll sort of dive into some of the specifics. But what is NSS Canada? Who are they distributing for?
So NSS Canada, we try and provide ourselves as a nexus of different technology innovations that are happening worldwide. We're not just partners with Hexagon, we partner with anybody that really has a very interesting product or an interesting solution to a problem in the industry. So a lot of the stuff that we try and bring to the market is autonomous drones, stuff like infrared cameras underground or on surface to track drowsiness and fatigue levels in operators, algorithms to plan data planning for fleet management or any kind of task management. As I say, the industry is moving to collecting the data. Now the big challenge is to be able to use that data and not just putting it in a file folder somewhere in a computer that nobody ever looks at.
Something I've asked it on the show to several different guests. Now, some people they have developed, they have like three prime products, and that can be put into a database. How do you approach when you're distributing for multiple brands, making sense of that data? Or do most companies just need separate things? Are they okay with that data being separate? I just mean the data points, collecting it. It's obviously, it's come up many times on the show that it's now a challenge. How do you approach it as a company?
You're right. Before, everybody used to be separate. All the data was in their own little silos. The data the geologists collected was never seen by the engineers because it was two different programs. A lot of the software coming out these days and a lot of the technology solutions pride themselves on being technology agnostic. They realize that most mine sites or most operations are using bits and pieces of whatever fills the job the best, and being able to have open communication between the software or hardware, it just makes sense. And the industry, I found, for a lot of the OEMs, have been fairly cooperative with other solution providers to ensure that, if these solutions do get implemented, if a certain trucking company sells a truck, everybody needs to be able to talk to it. All the software needs to talk. It just makes better business sense, and it helps really drive that innovation since there's more collaborative approach.
It must make it a lot easier, like a company like Hexagon, who has, I mean, I was spending time on their website this morning, and I mean, and I was actually a little bit, it was neat to look at, but I was also a little bit confused because I saw they had all these different streams. Like for example, they've got mine operate, mine protect, mine enterprise, mine plan, mine monitoring. Now, do all those systems, can they be integrated together, or even within their own company, are they on separate, are they separate data platforms?
They used to be, back in the day when they all existed as separate silos before Hexagon acquired them, absolutely. But they're designed nowadays so that Hexagon's main advantage they like to promote is if they provide a service, it's from the start of the mine to the end of the mine. So they're hoping that by diversifying and having different product portfolios that can all talk to each other, they can cover that entire gambit. And you're seeing a lot of companies move forward with this, where the interconnectivity and the communication between the products they sell is key, because as you were saying, people don't want to manage 15 different sets of data from 15 different sets of software.
Right. What was I going to ask? I was listening to the question, thinking about what I was seeing on the website, and lost my train of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you now? I know and again, we're going to talk a little bit more about Leica. We're going to talk about Moss, which is your internal platform. But where do you sort of, if somebody is coming to you, where is NSS known to really stand out? Is it in the underground? I mean, I know you've got other offerings, but is underground sort of your bread and butter as a company?
Oh, absolutely. Between everybody that works for NSS, we probably have about 150 years of combined underground experience, myself included, for when I was a bit younger. But we definitely pride ourselves on being the technology provider for underground. We're lucky being based in Sudbury. Sudbury is a very old underground mining camp. So the experience and just being able to have those mines locally means that we can get that real-time information, we can do the trials, and we can really prove that the technology that's coming out can succeed in that environment.
So what are you offering underground mining then, on let's call it a typical job, or typical supply chain? What would you be delivering to the customers, services and product?
Yeah, so honestly, it depends what the customer needs. It's we're at the stage where if the customer requires contractors to come and do certain tasks underground because they don't have the manpower or there's a change plan in place, we can bring people in to do those jobs. When it comes to the software, as you were mentioning, our MOS system is designed to really reduce the amount of people needed for certain jobs as we move to automation and technology. And then another examples with the Hexagon front or the Leica front, it's hardware and software that ties into a larger operation, whether that's fleet management or tracking the ore. A lot of the mines these days are getting deeper and deeper, so
Mm.
putting personnel in those are becoming more dangerous, and mines are moving towards being more safety conscious every day. So a lot of the technology that we provide is mitigation from putting people in danger.
So what would be an example of that? Like, could you just sort of paint a picture of, let's actually focus on Moss, because that is your internal, and I know it sort of integrates like the Leica systems and that. So for a mine that's going deeper and deeper, they need to minimize manpower and move to more autonomous. What are you selling them?
So with Moss, I'll just give a brief background in how it used to be done before for the viewers. So back in the day, I say back in the day, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, doing the daily advancement underground normally required a crew of anywhere between 5 and 10 people, just because the technology at the time and there were so many tasks and a lot of it was manual. As we've moved forwards technology-wise and innovation-wise, that has cut down to a certain point. So Moss's main focus is to remove everybody but the one miner from that area so that that one miner can do all the jobs needed on his daily drill and blast cycle without putting anyone else in his way, without exposing anybody else to that risk. And one of the interesting things about Moss is because it's in our own company and we can control the product development, we're moving towards fully autonomous markups and fully autonomous interactions with the equipment underground, because that's the way the mining companies are going, where they're just removing the human element completely from that deep mining. So it's a really interesting thing to see the product move from being a helping tool to almost being fully autonomous, and really providing the advantage there, removing people and equipment from the area.
How much does that technology advance? I mean, Moss, because it's, I guess we should share with the abbreviation, Miner Operated Survey System. So it's a very fitting name for what you just described. How how much is it advanced in, let's say, the last 3 to 4 years?
Quite substantially, actually. One of the big things with our partnership with Leica is we get access to a lot of their cutting edge technology, LiDAR being Leica being geomatics. They're really focusing on laser based systems and LiDAR based systems. And we're really well situated to take advantage of that technology. So in the older days, 4 or 5 years ago, we'd use a Leica total station, which uses one laser to precisely identify certain points in the mine. We're moving towards a system that can do an entire 360-degree scan in about 5 seconds, 10 seconds, depending on how long you need it to be and how accurate you need it to be. So the entire workflow goes from being 10, 15 minutes to a 5-minute job with an equipment that's a quarter of the size. And we see that technology just getting more miniaturized, getting more compartmentalized in the future. It's going to be a very interesting time to see how far they can push it.
So how hard is it to then internally as a company then to adapt? As their technology advances, does it make it easier to advance your technology, or do you run into? I mean, I don't know if you're a technical. I don't know if you're actually designing software in that. So I won't take you too deep into the water if you don't want. But for the development, uh, does it get technically challenging as companies like Leica? I think Hexagon bought Leica, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they're now they're kind of part and parcel to each other. As you're advancing, does it make it easier or more challenging?
It honestly depends on the part of the process you're in. Some of it for playing catch up, absolutely. There's a bit of a challenge there just because you have to get used to the new technology advancements and really try and get access from the developers at Leica, for example. We're lucky that we have a very good relationship with Leica. So anytime there's a new technology push, we get all the software development kits, we get trial versions of the hardware so that we can play around with it on our end. It also helps that a lot of the mining companies understand that this technology is getting pushed and they see where it could potentially take them. So there's a lot of external pressure for us to bring that standard up and really to continue to innovate.